I'd like to welcome everybody tonight to our regular scheduled April 24th board meeting. I'd also like to welcome our newest member, Mr. Robert Taser, new to our board. If we could start with the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Could I get a roll call, please?
Mr. Cummings?
Here.
Ms. McGuire?
Here.
Mr. Spencer?
Here.
Mr. Taser?
Here.
Mr. Sutton here. Mr. Wichterbarth? Mr. Palmer?
Here. Are there any agenda corrections or additions? And I hope not, with what we have here. Any corrections or additions?
Just the correction, the page that I handed out replaces page 49 in the consent agenda.
Page 49 in the consent agenda. Okay. Next up is our public comment. For this first public comment, you can speak on anything that's on the agenda, and we'd ask that you fill out a card, and please state your name when you come up to the podium. Do we have any cards?
We have one.
Okay.
Melinda Morgan, and the topic is info number 2 and other number 12.
Okay.
Anything?
Melinda Morgan, Greenbush, Michigan. I'm not a very good public speaker, so I'm going to read. Okay, so my first topic is info number 2, the water loss report. I just have a couple of things to say. I recently read a response to a FOIA request asking how much the township has lost dollar-wise based on the 55% water loss that was reported for February 2023. The response from the clerk's office was there's no direct dollar figure that can be calculated regarding water loss as related to the charges from HUSHRA because Oscoda Township is not a wholesale customer but is a member of the authority. While this may be true, Oscoda Township does not pay a per gallon rate. You do pay based on the previous 12 months production of water. Therefore, the higher Oscoda's water loss is, the higher amount you're using from HUSHRA's production, making you pay more overall. The township paid HUSHRA $153,675 for the first quarter of 2023. That's $51,225 a month for the total amount of water being called through the master meters into Oscoda Township from HUSHRA. If the average water loss for those 3 months, let's just say is 50%, then wouldn't we be able to say that roughly 50% of the money paid to HUSHRA every month is lost? You may not be paying a per gallon price, but you are surely paying the price for all the water that is lost. This is not okay, and this is not acceptable. Other 12, a Sabo resident agenda item request. Trying to figure out what this is and why it was placed on the agenda this way. Is this the request Mr. Kubik has made to be on the agenda to discuss some concerns he has? I read that according to Superintendent Klein, this is being brought to and discussed tonight by you as a board only to decide if the already requested item can be placed on a future agenda down the road. I hope this is not the case. Is this on the agenda tonight in the other section so the discussion can be squashed and never heard? Is Mr. Kubik being allowed the opportunity tonight to discuss what he's requested? He has made requests both publicly at a board meeting and in writing, so why isn't he being placed on the agenda as he should be according to Charter Township of Oscoda's board protocol? You don't have to like what Mr. Kubik is trying to address, which I believe are chain of command issues and concerns, and you don't have to agree with him, but I do believe you are required to follow board protocol, your own board protocol, for everyone, no picking and choosing. It looks as though you're hiding something, and it appears you are not being transparent here. We can do way better than this, folks. This is not okay, and this is not acceptable. Thank you.
Thank you. Did we have, was that the only one?
We don't have any more.
Just the one?
Yep.
Okay. Moving on to the consent agenda. We have the meeting minutes from March 27th, minutes from April 3rd and April 17th. And I believe Mr. Sutton sent out some revised agendas to all the board members. Are there any questions or comments on these minutes? If not, moving on to the payment of bills. We have a total of $153,044.71. Are there questions or comments relating to the payment of bills? For the prepaids in the amount of $43,894.67. The March 31st run, $3,800. April 3rd, $1,443.85. April 4th, $32,188.53. April 6th, $26,263.32. April 11th, $17,511.79. April 18th, $27,942.55. Any questions or comments on these payment of bills? Hearing none, we'll go to the, let's see,
What page?
we're on the bond interest expense. That's on page 21 of the packet, I think, or 22, sorry. No, I'm sorry, that's farther down.
Bill, I can't hear.
Page 40. It's the first one.
40 is the bond interest? Yeah.
Yep. It's actually interesting and principal, but,
Do you
oh,
do you
go
want to
ahead.
make any statement on that? You have
Nope,
information on
not
that?
unless anybody's got a question.
It's
do you-
bond interest expense. Are there any questions on that?
Just so everybody, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, I do. It's sewer bond and interest, the general obligation bond from 2011. And I just wanted to let the board be aware that there's only actually 3 more payments due on this one, and then this one will be paid off. So we usually pay in the spring and in the fall, and so next year, after the end of the year, this one will be gone.
All right, excellent. Excellent, thank you.
Yep.
The bond interest for 2015. Any questions or comments on that?
This one is for the sewer lagoon improvements from 2015, and there's only 5 more payments left on this one.
All right, we are paying down our debts. Overpayments of tax bills.
This one, just, I know this is new, that the board wanted something that wasn't to the entities to be brought to the board. So what had happened is a lady, taxes were paid, she was deceased, so the check was returned to us, but the lady that actually paid the taxes brought in a copy of her check, and we reissued the check to her. It's a family member.
Okay. Any further questions on that, by the board? I would like to take just a second to thank Ms. McGuire and her clerk, or her deputy, I'm sorry, for working closer with the clerk to get these payment of bills corrected. And I'm happy to see that we're making progress in getting this, the accounts payable straightened up. The next item is the investment report. This is encouraging. Again, my hat off to Ms. McGuire for these investments. We're finally seeing some interest rates, 4.85. Typically, when we look at this, we're lucky if it's usually below 1% on the interest. So we have 3 at 4.85 and 2 at 4%, 2%. So I see some of these are coming due that are the lower interest. I'm sure you will get those into
Oh, yeah.
higher
Yep.
paying. Just as an example, the Michigan class, the 1.7 million at 4.85, that generates about $90,000 for the township in interest. So we finally can make some money on our money, which is a good thing,
For sure.
which we've not been able to do in the past because interest rates have been so low.
I did want to mention that, and I know I mentioned this last quarter, that in September of 2020, our total investments were $8.8 million. My quarterly report, if you're following the board packet, is down to $5.7 million. We have cashed in some of our investments to help front some of the costs for the water projects, water and sewer projects, and we will be paying ourselves back. I know that we, and hopefully it'll be on the next board meeting, that we can close the DWRF checking account, and soon probably the CWSRF that we've been getting ready to do, and that's going to be close to $1 million that we'll be paying ourselves back.
That's great. Always good to pay ourselves back.
Yes, it is.
Thank you. Thank you. Next is the EFT report for WEX. This is our fuel. My understanding is we're trying to get an that's set up on EFT so we don't have to put it in the mail and then have late fees because it doesn't get there.
That's a big thank you to Jamie, because I sent it over to her and she needed some information, and about an hour later, she told me it was all set up. So this is how it'll be paid every month.
That's excellent, because my understanding is you mail it out, which should have been on time, but when it doesn't get there for 2 weeks,
Yeah.
then it puts us late. So this is a much better system. Thank you. Thank you. The C2R2 checking. This is for our water.
This was a paying ourselves back. It should have come out as C2R2, and it's just reimbursing ourselves.
Very good. And then the CWSRF account.
This was one of the ones that we approved at a previous board meeting for rural professional services. So this is just the actual check that we are writing them.
Okay. And the bond payments.
This one, I believe, is the one that I said on the board table, is replacing this next page. And what had happened, I created the check and then noticed that I had the wrong cash line, so I had to void it and redo it, so you have the corrected one.
So the one you handed out
Is the corrected one.
correct,
Yep.
okay. Very good, thank you. Any questions or comments on the minutes or the finances? Can I get a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I'll make a
move-
motion that we approve the consent agenda.
Yeah, support Cummings.
We have a motion by Ms. McGuire, support by Mr. Cummings. Roll call, please.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Taser?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes. Motion passed. Okay, next up is our action items. Oh, I'm sorry, first we have our engineering report. From April. Mr. Freeman?
Good evening, everyone. I'll try to run through this pretty briefly. The water main projects are moving forward. As Ms. McGuire mentioned, we have finally got the official closeout of the 2021 DWRF project from Eagle, and I'll be working with Tammy and to close the books on that and get that behind us. That was phase 4. project. The other projects are moving forward. We are starting to get material in from Ferguson, and we're sitting down with the contractors to get a spring schedule from them as far as when they'll start arriving back on site and cleaning the mess up from last fall and the spring. I know Elmer's has been out working on Elk Lane, getting that pipe in the ground. And again, hopefully with the materials starting to come in from Ferguson, we can wrap up last fall's projects and then get moved on to the projects later this year, Phase 6 out at Colbath, and then the township-wide service line project. The CWSRF pump station project with RCL is wrapping up. We're working on punch list items between Roe and Catherine's staff at F&V, and we'll be getting that wrapped up. One bit of good news, the Gaylord District Office for Eagle has reviewed our plan for adding on more odor control for pump station 4 and 25. Just 25? Just 25. They've agreed to it. We've got to go through some paperwork with them as far as getting it included in the project. Roe is working with RCL on an actual price and a schedule. So we will be able to add the odor control, that additional odor control that should hopefully resolve the issues around pump station 25. The 2024 CWRF, DWRF project plans, right after this report, Dave Richmond is here to discuss the draft report or project plan that is being finalized so that we can submit that at the May 1st deadline for that. Phase 3 trail project, contractor is moving along pretty good right now. He's got a lot of the first pass of stone aggregate down on the trail. We do have a progress meeting out on site tomorrow to discuss that, since we're right at that April 30th intermediate point for the EMR mitigation. We had a trail committee meeting last Thursday, and Chris Messing was on there from Fisheries and Wildlife, and he was happy to hear the progress and is getting us more information on if a snake is seen now through the summer, the contact information and all that stuff that we need. And then also direction for staff that might encounter, staff or public that might encounter a snake out on the trail. So. Still coordinating efforts with Catherine and her staff on various issues for the township. I did finally get actually talking with Jason Goff from WTA today. He is getting me a couple of dates for next week or the following week for him to be up here to sit down with the superintendent, myself, to discuss where they're at with the progress and the facilities, and then move on to the next steps as far as when a meeting with the Planning and Zoning Board could be scheduled, and then eventually whatever recommendations come out of that to the Township Board. Mission Street lining project, I see that that's on the agenda later tonight. The Old Orchard Campground projects, Roe has completed the mapping that was approved at the last meeting, and I'll be sitting down with township personnel on going over their CIP plan and laying those out on that map now that we've got digitized. Funding is starting to pick up speed and steam. There's a lot of opportunities coming up that have a June timeframe as far as deadlines for applications. We did finally get information and direction on the Gary Peters appropriation from last fall. The township was awarded a grant for $3 million for water infrastructure, and we're working with our Region 5 EPA coordinator as far as getting all of the paperwork in place for that, as far as getting that grant established and moving forward with identified projects on the water side. The MDNR Spark Grant, round one, last December, the township did not get selected. They just announced on Friday, round two has been put out there. The deadline for that application is in June, and the application window is open May 1st. So we'll be looking at what we submitted last fall for projects. I'll be working with Tammy and adjusting those priorities or whatever, and then bringing that back to the board at an upcoming board meeting as far as which projects we'll be pursuing on that. And then the MEDC revitalization and placemaking, that was the application that we submitted last year for Oscoda Beach Park, and we weren't selected. Now this year's project application is out there, and we'll be sitting through a webinar tomorrow on that as far as what's entailed in that, and looking forward to submitting on that. Also are digging into the broadband funding that's out there, and there's some from Forestry Service and EDA that we're also looking into to see what opportunities the township might have. Holiday Inn Express, we finally got some dialogue going with the new site manager for the Holiday Inn Express, and I'll be discussing that with Tammy tomorrow as far as what the next steps are is getting the water connection that they need for that development. And that is my report.
Okay, thank you very much. Just one question. There's under the coordinating with F&V operations, I see one of the things that you're discussing is the water loss investigation.
Yes.
We all are concerned with the amount of water that we're losing. And what do you have an idea of what you guys are planning, how you're going to try and figure out where this water is going?
Well, I'll defer the specifics to Catherine, but essentially, right now, we're still honing in on the various areas within the township, trying to identify through the metering that's already in place and what F&B operations staff is finding in the field, trying to hone in on, where our problem areas are, maybe identifying the older areas of the system that could be the cause for the water loss. Just she came up with, there was a contractor that broke a line a week or so ago that in just a matter of a couple of days, 12,000 gallons possibly were lost in a break that they caused on a curb stop that they didn't call for misdig prior to them excavating. So it's a continuing process of identifying those and trying to stay on top of that. And then once I think we get to a point where we've got that somewhat regularly documented and what we've got, then we can come up with some means and methods to try to continue to curtail the amount of water loss that the township is experiencing.
Okay.
But as she reported previously, comparable townships and municipalities, you are right in the mix. You are not sticking out there any higher or lower than anybody else. It's just it's a known problem with water infrastructure that's been buried for years in the ground. A leak in your house you can see right away and address it. A leak on even a 6-inch main or a valve or whatever, or a 3/4 inch service underground, until it bubbles to the surface, and in sand it's not going to bubble to the surface very quickly. It's just hard to identify. So, but all of the things that the township's putting in place, new meters, moving the meter pits or the meters out of the houses and property out to the right of way, all of that will continue to improve in reducing the water loss.
And this comes in where we need the residents' help with this as well, because if you see water that's standing on your property or somewhere that shouldn't be standing there, call the water department and let us know. We can come out and take a look at it. So many of these leaks that we've been finding are on private property, on the service line that goes from the road into the house. And like we said, if the meter's in the house, the homeowner doesn't realize, because their bill doesn't go up, they don't realize that there's a leak. But if there's water standing around that you don't think should be standing around, please call us so we can get out. We found several of these here recently where just a 3/8 inch hole running for a couple of weeks, and I think probably it goes longer than those 3 weeks. You're talking about 600,000 gallons. It adds up in a hurry, so we need help on that. Thanks.
Because it takes personnel, time and personnel to track this down, so yeah, any help that we can get from the public will be greatly appreciated.
Yes.
Rick, do big cities use any other type of location software or mechanisms to?
There's a lot out there in the marketplace that they sell and try to provide assurances that it is good and accurate. But in the 30-plus years that I've been in the business, it is not an exact science, and especially when you got high groundwater levels, which again Oscoda has in several areas. It's kind of hard to detect water in the ground when you've got groundwater there also. Obviously, if water is moving out of a pipe, there is, I'll say, noise associated with it. There is some technology for that, but again, you've essentially got to be right on top of the leak to identify that there's one there. So again, continued maintenance on the system, continued improvements to the system, continued improvements and installing new main where we know that there's issues. And like I said, the biggest thing is, like I said, kind of the things that the township's already implementing, getting that, just moving the meter pits out to the road, all of those service lines going into the house, the homeowner or the business owner is going to quickly know from month to month if their water usage went up, and we can quickly identify if it's a leak in their service line. Right now, with the meter in the house, there's no way of us, knowing that until somebody spots it, or again, F&B personnel is in the field and they somehow come across it.
Is there a way to put more meters on some of the longer service lines, the older service lines, like intermittently, to be able to check those too?
That has been done in other communities. The expense to installing those meters on the large size mains, because those meters are not cheap. I don't think right now it outweighs the benefit to the cost, and comparable to the water loss that's being seen. Like I said, at a later stage in the process, we might be able to isolate an area and do something like that on, but right now I think it would be good money that could be used elsewhere in trying to address the problem.
Okay, thank you.
Rick, I had a question. Just taking this from a big picture, kind of rip the Band-Aid off at almost no cost concern. What would it cost to replace the entire water system in Oscoda in orders of magnitude of hundreds of millions of dollars?
I'll get back to you on that.
Sure, sure.
Any
We have miles of water lines here.
yeah,
Exactly.
right.
So, right.
Yeah, you're talking in the
Yeah.
hundreds of millions of dollars.
Yeah, that would be quite a millage.
Yeah, because it's not just the pipes, it's all the valves that are associated with it, all the hydrants
Absolutely.
associated with it,
Yep.
and all of that.
Yep.
I mean, what's our phase 6 length of pipe? 2.3 miles?
Yes.
2.3 miles that we're gonna be putting out to bid later this year,
Yep.
is right now 3.2 million estimate.
Mhm.
So 3.2 million, so $1 million a mile.
Right,
So,
there you are.
so.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Any other questions for Rick? Okay, thank you, Rick. Next, we have the Oscoda Charter Township 2024 CWSRF project plan.
Good evening, Dave Richmond with Rowe Professional Services. As discussed, this is the 2024 CWSRF project plan, looking to get some more funding through Eagle to work on the sanitary sewer system. This year is a little different than others where there's more money out there. There's more grant opportunity this year through the bipartisan infrastructure legislation, especially for the emerging contaminants, which is some of what we're trying to address with this project plan, with the work that we're looking to do. With this project, quick project overview is we're completing the upgrades to the pump stations that were previously identified in the SAW report that were not done as part of the last CWSRF. We are looking to begin repairs on manholes and the pipe infrastructure that was also detailed, the high priority ones in the SAW report. Start working on doing some of the lining and different repairs to the manholes and sewer lines. Also looking at cleaning the sludge in the lagoons, which has got the PFAS in it, so that's a different type of process now. Also looking at rehabbing the pump station 25 force main. That's the main force main that takes all the sewage from pump station 25 to the lagoons. There's been several breaks in that recently, so that's one of the items that we're looking at working on. And then also looking to treat the wastewater stream for the PFAS. So in this process, you go through and you do minimum three alternatives. One alternative is a do nothing, where you look at, okay, if you do nothing, here's what happens. Your O&M costs go up over time. Eventually, everything fails, and you're replacing everything completely. Alternate number 2, which is the alternate that we selected, based off of price, or initial capital costs, and then O&M numbers. That's looking at going in and completing the controls upgrades for the pump stations that did not get previously corrected. Also looking at putting in new pumps in a couple of the stations. Pump station number 8, which was identified through the last project we were working on, was in severe need of work that Eagle wouldn't add on to our project. That is going to get taken care of as part of this project plan. Again, looking at not replacing, but lining the force main from pump station 25 out to the lagoons. And then looking at there's a couple different ways you can get rid of sludge. One is just you pull the sludge out, you dewater it, and you take it to an approved landfill for disposal. The other one is what they call destroying it, which is extremely costly, and not only in equipment but also in energy, because you're putting it through high heat and also high pressures to destroy all the material. And then we looked at 3 different methods of treating the wastewater stream. And the ultimate selection, or the choice that we came up with, they're all relatively close in capital cost, but the selection that we came up with, which is called foam fractionation, it can actually be tailored as we start to see maybe a decrease in the PFAS in the wastewater stream. It'll take less work. There'll be less work involved in treating the water, so it can be tailored to the system as we maybe see a change in the actual PFAS in the system throughout. The preferred alternative is just under $15 million, but what we are looking at too is with this funding this year, is especially looking at the emerging contaminants, is there's a lot more chance, and that's what we're looking at, of being able to get grant funding to take care of a lot of this, dealing with the emerging contaminants. Be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Anybody have questions for Dave?
I'll go first.
Okay.
So on page 18, where you presented your action, the A, B, and C, and you picked the second one, or I should say 1, 2, and 3. Under that, you've got a total cost for the project at $16 million, but then it talks about that over the life of the span of the loan, this project will cost each sewer customer approximately $21.20 per month. It should be noted that this is a representative value for public understanding and does not include salvage value of the project after the loan period, nor interest payments over that time frame. So if this is grant funding, then this wouldn't apply then?
That's correct. What you do is, because you don't know how much grant money you're getting at this time, you have to look at it as being a loan. They don't tell us right now how much grant money we got until they actually go through and score this project plan and then see how much, they weigh it with all the other project plans that have been submitted and to where the cutoff point is, and then to see how much money you're actually going to get in grant funding. So this does not take into account any grants at this
So-
time.
This is an increase of $21 per person for the life of this loan if we don't get any grant money
Correct.
every month.
Correct. Now, here's the thing, is with this, is we're submitting this in. If you don't get any grant money, or you decide once this moves through, you can always say, we don't want to do the project.
But we need to do the project.
Yeah.
And we can also, and this project plan is good for 5 years. So what you can do is we can say, okay, we're going to scale back year 1 to this, maybe year 2 to here. Or we can even just take certain things right out of the project plan, you know, as we move through, when we see what we're getting back for potential funding. So this is worst case. This is doing the whole project right now and not scaling back if we have to, or pushing it out over the next 5 years with different projects. And the potential for more grant money in those years.
Do you have anything else, Jim?
Nope.
Anybody else? Questions? I had a couple of questions on this. One thing that seemed odd is, like you said, you have 3 alternatives. Alternative number 1, of course, the cost is 0, but the actual cost could be horrendous if our sewer line fails and we have sewage backup in homes. Alternate 2 is the 16.4 million. Alternate 3 is 23.5. The alternate 3 seems to be more replacing things,
Yes.
as opposed to rehabilitating.
Correct. So what I looked at with alternate 3 is instead of rehabilitating some of the gravity lines or the manholes or even that force main, is actually going in and doing a complete replacement of those lines. It also looked at a different method of treating the wastewater, which was higher. It was a higher cost. It wasn't that much higher of a cost, but it was a higher cost for treating the wastewater. And then it was also put in the deconstruction of the sludge instead of actually taking it to an approved landfill.
Okay, so I guess my question, what I didn't understand, is in the annual operations and maintenance cost, it would seem to me that doing a more extensive replacement, it would make those annual operating costs lower, whereas in this alternate 2, the operation and maintenance is less. I didn't quite understand.
That's
how that-
because of the operation and maintenance costs for the treatment of the wastewater. The other alternative was a much higher energy use, and so your operations and maintenance is much higher. It's much more intense than what the selected alternative was.
So you're talking about the treating of the PFAS?
The treating of the PFAS in the wastewater stream, yes.
And that amounts to roughly $7 million, I think, total out of this, or something in that area?
Yes.
Is that something that's mandated by the state on us yet, or is this just planning ahead? in
No,
case
this
they
is just
do?
planning ahead. This was something that we had identified early on, through this process, was looking at it being able to try to treat the PFAS in the wastewater stream.
Okay, so we don't have a mandate from them yet that we have to do this.
No,
But-
we do not yet, Catherine, do we? No.
So we're just planning ahead at this point.
Correct.
and including that money in case we need it.
It's looking at it from the standpoint that if you can get the grant funding for it, then this is the time then to go ahead and start working at doing that.
And is there any concern with the, because we have the residual contamination from the Air Force, and there's a underground plume that's associated with the treatment plant out there, how is that work into our plan in terms of the PFAS that we would hope the Air Force will be cleaning up?
Well, that's what I said with this, with the selected alternative. Over time, the way the selected alternative works is the treated effluent from the lagoons is pushed into a system where it creates a foam, and that foam contains the PFAS contaminants in it. And then that foam is treated through another screen system, through a GAC filter itself, and then also through an ion exchange, and that pulls all the PFAS chemicals out that then are trapped into a vessel. And over time, that vessel needs to be replaced. The media is going to need to be replaced. As you start treating the PFAS that's in the groundwater, the plume, and you've got less and less getting into the system, then that's less maintenance and work that has to be done from the treated effluent that's coming out. And one of the things that we would hope to do too is with the repairing of some of the sewer lines and the manholes is stopping some of that groundwater infiltration into the sewer system now that's contributing to the PFAS in the wastewater plant.
And I see in your report that right now our infiltration is not really a problem for us. We don't see a lot of groundwater entering.
No, there's still infiltration, but it's not exceeding what Eagle considers the high limit for it right now. There is still some infiltration in, and you're going to get infiltration and inflow into the system with the different breaks in the lines, the poor manholes that we're talking about lining. This way, we're taking care of that. We're stopping some of that water from getting into the system.
Okay, and just one other question on this is on page, what is it here? 14 of your booklet there. It's under the need for the project, G, number 1, compliance status.
Yep.
It talks about our requirements under our groundwater discharge permit that the township acquires through F&V. And halfway down there it says, these limitations result in water quality sampling and monitoring, along with limitations on daily maximum discharge, which is noted in the groundwater discharge permit included in error. Reference source not found.
That's actually, there's that error is that the reference that was supposed to be in this report the proper reference did not get put in here, and it's for the actual groundwater discharge permit. That's at the back of the...
It's a Microsoft Word error.
Yeah, the appendix. It's a word error. It's not an error. It's an error in the actual writing here. It's supposed to be directed to the appendix in the back of the...
Okay,
Well, it's a linkage to the document.
That'll be it. Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Okay, very good. Any other questions, comments?
Well, you said that there's 3 different options on here. Does that mean that when Eagle looks through these, are we only submitting the option that we choose, or are we giving them the opportunity to pick one?
In the cost that we're submitting right now, it's the lower cost number, but it's not, if you actually get selected and move forward with it, that doesn't mean we can't go with one of the other options. These options were so close they were within $300,000 of each other for capital cost. It was the O&M costs where it kind of changes the difference here. So it's not to say that if you get funded, you couldn't go with one of the other options, but we're working with another consultant that this is kind of more their specialty is working with this, and this is based off of what they found. This would be the best one to tailor suit for what we have going on here.
Thank you.
Thank you. This is quite an impressive document that you put together here for us.
Thank you.
I have to say. All right, moving on to our superintendent report. First up is the drop-off refuse.
Right. Your packet contains the drop-off refuse flyer for 2023 and the current contract for disposal with Travis Sanitation, which is valid until April 30th, 2024. After a discussion with the township's vendor, the dates agreed upon for summer and fall are June 10, 2023 and September 9, 2023. I would ask that the board consider approving the two above listed dates of June 10 and September 9 of 2023 for the community refuse drop-off event.
Do we have a fee that we're planning to charge for each drop-off date?
I believe it's the $10.
Okay. And does that, if I don't remember correctly, do we pay for this? I would think we pay something back to them, right? Or is it just simply from the amount of money we collect from the fees?
Well, we have to pay Travis for what they intake.
Right, so if 100 people participate, is it just the money we collect from the $10 of each of those 100 people, or do we have a set fee that we pay on top of that, or?
We have a set fee that we pay on top of that.
Okay, got it, thank you. And do we know what that is? I don't.
Yes,
Sorry,
it's located in the contract.
Yeah, sorry, I'm just looking for it.
There's-
Oh, there it is, I see it now.
Yep.
It's 1B, thank you. Okay,
Just gotta get back up there.
oops.
Lord.
Yeah, it's 189.
All right. So, under consideration, number one, provide up to 5 30-yard roll-offs for $490. And actually, we had to correct that, it was $590.
Right.
But all his costs are in 1 through 5, which is totaling hold on a sec. $3,250 per event, so.
6,500. Do we otherwise have that $6,500 budgeted?
Yes.
And the money that comes from the fees, does that come to reimburse us? Or does that go to?
As much as we get,
Yeah,
yes.
sure, right, which is.
Yeah,
obviously
Jamie collects it in her office.
Not going to cover this amount, but,
Right, no, it won't.
No, we're close.
yeah, I know, right? I've seen the list before, it's like, yeah, not very many people, sadly, but yet I know it's still valuable to those who do participate.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, this event is usually well-attended
Yep,
every year. We've been doing this for a few years now. Hopefully we keep from trash being dumped out in the forest is the idea.
exactly.
Well, and I can, after the event, each event, I usually bring back the record of what was brought in, so.
Do you have lots of requests for items that have refrigerant in them? Because I noticed that they don't take those.
I haven't had any. I don't know if anybody tries to bring them in, and I don't know if Herb would charge extra if he takes it.
Oh, it says that unless you have the certificate from a licensed contractor that has removed the refrigerant, they will not take it.
Yeah,
Well, I mean, he might have some different arrangement, but we don't. And I haven't had any requests for that, so.
Any other questions, comments? Do we hear a motion?
I move that we approve the two above listed dates of June 10th, 2023 and September 9th, 2023 for the community drop-off refuse event.
Support.
And I just have a question on this request for you, Tammy. Do we need to include the contract, or is that going to be a separate motion? Because we need to approve you signing the contract.
The contract's
It's already been
in
signed.
place
Already been
till
signed.
2024.
years.
Thank you. All right, got it.
Yep.
Thank you.
All right, we have a motion by Mr. Cummings, support by Mr. Sutton. Roll call, please.
Mr. Teaser?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes. Motion passes. Next up is the renewing the engineering contract.
Right. Your packet contains a contract renewal proposal for Township engineering services from Mr. Rick Freeman. The Township currently has ongoing water and sewer projects, the Oscoda Exploration Trail project through 2023, parks projects, and quite a bit of funding research and applications that Mr. Freeman has already started and is very familiar with. The contract renewal remains on a part-time basis with flexibility on being on-site or remote work, and his fee remains set at $55 per hour. I would ask that the board consider approving the contract renewal proposal submitted by Mr. Freeman for Township Engineering Services and have the superintendent execute the contract.
Comments? Questions? I think, in my experience, Mr. Freeman is doing an excellent job for us,
I agree.
along in conjunction with Roe. Roe does the sort of the heavy lifting on these projects, and Mr. Freeman helps us with everything else. So I would make a motion to approve the proposal from Rick Freeman for engineering services as submitted and have the superintendent execute the contract.
Support.
Just out of curiosity, real quick, does it says you were working 24 to 30 hours a week? Is that pretty average, or?
Yeah, that's, I mean, it goes up and down, based on if we're in the heat of an application or whatever, I might end up having to put more hours in. But as an average for the entire year, I believe that was pretty accurate.
You happy with those hours?
I'm not tired yet.
Fair enough. Thank you.
Well, this meeting isn't over yet either. All right, we have a motion by Mr. Palmer, support by Ms. McGuire. Roll call, please.
Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Taser?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Palmer?
Yes, motion passed. Okay. Next is pump station number 4, replacement parts.
At the previous meeting on March 27th, Ms. Nguyen from Fleece and Vanderbrink discussed the current issues with pump station number 4 located centrally downtown. We have received the price quote for repair parts in the amount of $12,033.71 versus total pump replacement cost in excess of $30,000. As noted in Ms. Nguyen's memo, pump station number 4 is planned for a complete rehab in the upcoming CWSRF project. I would ask that the board consider approving the replacement parts purchase requested in the amount of $12,033.71 to be paid from Fund 591-000-890.000, contingency, as this was not a budgeted repair cost.
Questions? Comments?
So it's included in the plan for the upcoming CWSRF. So does that mean this money will be able to be reimbursed to us too, or not?
Hi.
Hello.
No, the money would not be reimbursed. This would be considered, kind of semi-routine corrective maintenance based on the life of the pump. It's just that if we were to wait until the rehab project, which even if the project plan is approved this year, funding may not be available till next year, the work may not start until 2025, 2 years from now. And at that point, you have a main lift station that is running on one pump with this pump that we have reassembled with the existing parts as a not great condition standby. So this is not a really good reliability situation for the township in regard to a significant, pump station. So, even though it's going to be completely rehab, this cost is not going to be able to be reimbursed.
Okay, thank you.
So you're saying that there's 2 pumps in the station, but only 1 pump is in use at any given time?
Normally they alternate, but they also have issues where if in the event that one pump becomes partially clogged with debris, which happens quite frequently because of the excessive use of personal care wipes and other types of materials that really shouldn't be flushed, everybody please don't flush those, that if the pump were to get clogged, then the alternate pump would be able to, pump and keep sewage from backing up into the sewer mains or into any buildings or et cetera. So, even though we are on a 24-hour alarm system and emergency response, putting a significant pump station like that with no redundancy is not something that one would be a good, would not be something that we would recommend or that Roe would recommend, and also not something that Eagle would be very happy about either.
How old is the other pump that's in there? Is that in the same boat as the?
I think that one is a little bit newer. I want to say 2009. I'd have to look back at my notes. Neither of them are new, so, but.
And their
this one-
usability life was what, you said 20 years last time?
20 to 25 years, so they're reaching the, lifespan of the pump anyway. But yeah, honestly, $12,000 is not a significant expense when you're looking at this type of equipment, as Dave could probably tell you. Unfortunately, water and wastewater equipment, which is very specific and proprietary, is also not inexpensive.
Thank you.
And if I understood what was in here is that the pump that's in there now, you're looking to, when we do the pump replacement project, it'll be a different type of pump?
Yes.
And if we were to put that pump in here, that it would have to be completely repiped and would be a very
Yeah.
expensive proposition.
If you were going to try to move that part of it up, first off, one, it isn't going to be approved at this point either. So you would be doing that work ahead of getting the project plan approved, so it would not be reimbursable. And also, it would be a lot more involved to replace that pump with a brand-new pump of a different style right now. And it wouldn't make sense to put all the money into a brand-new pump of the same type that you have in there now with the changes that are going to be happening with the CWSRF project and trying to get all the pump stations to have similar equipment. It's something that Roe has worked for, trying to get, minimize the amount of replacement parts and the different types of materials that have to be so that it saves the O&M costs long-term for the township.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments? Do I have a motion?
Can I add?
Oh, sure.
It should be 590 instead of 591 on the fund number, just in case somebody makes a motion with that number in there. It has to be 590, which is sewer.
Super. Do I have a motion? I'll make a motion to approve the replacement parts purchase for pump station number 4 in the amount of $12,033.71 to be paid from Fund 590-000-890.000.
Support Cummings.
We have a motion by Mr. Palmer, support by Mr. Cummings. Roll call, please.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Don't answer me when I
Mr. Taser?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
I thought I already voted.
do. You did.
Want to vote twice?
No.
That's because of one person. No, that was Mr. Sutton's. Mr. Taser. Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Motion passed. Thank you. Next is the dust control.
All right, your packet contains the bid tabulation and the response received from the annual dust control RFP previously approved by the Township Board. Historically, the Township's 13 to 14 miles worth of dust control takes approximately 3 loads of 9,000 gallons per load, or a minimum of 27,000 gallons total per application of Liquidow. The Township has seen better results with Liquidow than the 26% brine solution, but the more effective Liquidow is also more expensive to apply. If the historic trend continues for the 2023 season, a minimum load total of 27,000 gallons would translate into at least $17,496 per application of Liquidow. Last year, a total of $24,169.32 was paid to liquid calcium chloride sales coded to the Road Improvement Fund 203, to be paid out of line 203-000-969.000, street and road maintenance. All applications of dust control are supervised by the DPW personnel, and this requires Township Board approval.
Questions, comments? This is,
I do have a question. So last year, with the amount of the roughly $24,000 that we spent for Liquid applications, because it was more than we may have expected last year, since it sounds like it's compared to the $17,000 this year, did we find ourselves trying, like, were we restraining ourselves to apply it in more places?
Yeah, they do try and stretch it out as much as they can. And we also have, we have private roads that are done as well, which
Right.
we intake money from that, and
Sure.
the road commission pays for a third of the cost as well.
Of this cost, the
Yes.
$17,500 at this
Yes.
point? Okay. Well, so we're planning less this year?
I'm not
That's
sure.
fine, that's good.
It just depends.
Okay. If we go back later and want to extend the contract for more applications, is that going to be a problem?
No, not at all. Actually, liquid calcium chloride has been our dust control people for,
Yeah.
since I started. So, and what I was explained to by liquid calcium chloride is, they have their route set. That's why we do it in April. And that's why we only get one bid response, because each area has different calcium chloride people. Because we submitted 10,
Right.
actually, 10 requests for bid. So, and they have no problem. We've never had any issues with them doing more or less, and even the half-load costs that Mr. Palmer requested. So-
Right, yeah, I didn't remember the cost rates. I was wondering if we were shorting ourselves in the application by trying to do the 17.5 here.
No,
Okay.
no.
Okay, fair
Mr.
enough.
Hamlin will take care of it.
Okay, great.
any other questions, comments? Do I have a motion?
I move that we approve the application of Liquid Dow for liquid calcium chloride in the amount of $17,000.
I would do the .648
Oh, I'm sorry.
per
Where is that?
gallon.
Oh, thank you very much. Very good, thank you. At the .648, sorry, dollars per gallon? Sorry.
Cents.
Cents per gallon, thank you, good. Good. And do we need the cap? Do we need a cap on this or no? Okay, good. Fair enough. And then to be paid out of Road Improvement Fund 203, to be paid out of the line 203-000-969-000, street and road maintenance.
Support, Spencer.
We have a motion by Mr. Cummings, support from Mr. Spencer. Roll call, please.
Mr. Teaser?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes, motion passed. Next up is the fire hydrant purchase.
All right, your packet contains a memo from Ms. Nguyen of F&V Operations regarding the purchase of 5 fire hydrants. This item is budgeted in the amount of $40,000 every year in the capital improvement plan. I would ask that the board consider approving the purchase of 5 fire hydrants from EJ USA Inc. in the amount of $15,801.40 to be paid from Fund 591-000-974.000.
Are these 5 fire hydrants already earmarked for installation? Or are they
No.
just stock?
No, it's stock, correct?
Do we have a replacement program where you replace certain fire hydrants periodically?
Generally, there are enough vehicle hydrant accidents during the year to use up a couple, and then also if there are any that we find that we're in, really poor condition that need to be replaced, or as we did last year, planned for additions to the system. But generally, we like to have a few of them available, mostly because they do get damaged on a relatively regular basis, unfortunately.
Is that typically how many you use a year, is 5?
Yeah, typically we use 3 or 4 a year just for replacements. That there has been some discussion about doing a more wholesale replacement in the systems, but obviously, that's been now a different category of priority over doing the water main expansions to address, residences that have contaminated wells. So that this has been something that's been just kind of on a routine basis and not like a larger replacement project.
Okay, and it's been brought to our attention by the fire chief that the new apartments out on perimeter in Georgia, there's not a fire hydrant within 1,000 feet.
We
get one out there?
purchased one for that last year, and those came in late last year, so we actually discussed that this morning, as a matter of fact, trying to coordinate with one of the contractors that are going to be doing the water main expansion, because they would have to do the larger size water main tap in order to install the hydrant. That's not something that we can do in-house, the tap, but then we would go on and install the hydrant and the valve after that point. So we will be coordinating that hopefully soon. We'll be working with the chief, as far as placement on that and where it makes sense in regard. There's quite a large stormwater containment area there, and some other stuff that we're going to have to work around as far as placing that hydrant.
Okay, thank you.
Do we have any more in stock right now? Is this addition to what we have?
We have 2 right now. One is for perimeter in Georgia. The other one was purchased for installation near the new Holiday Inn Express, once the issue of where the water main is going to be connected to is resolved. So those 2 were already earmarked. So other than those 2, we have no other new ones on site right now. So these would be for upcoming, replacements, and then hopefully sometime in the future, we'll be looking at some more wholesale replacements of fire hydrants, probably looking at which ones are the oldest, or ones that are having some operating issues.
Other questions? Thank you. Do I have a motion? I'll make a motion to approve the purchase of 5 fire hydrants from EJ USA in the amount of $15,801.40 to be paid from Fund 591-000-974.000.
Support.
We have a motion by Mr. Palmer, support by Ms. McGuire. Roll call, please.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Mr. Teaser?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes, motion passed. Next is the Sting invoice.
All right, your packet contains a 2023 invoice from the Strike Team Investigation Narcotics Group, Sting, for $9,795.80. The Township Board has approved the exact same amount to be paid to Sting for the last several years. This invoice should be paid from the Police Fund 207 due to the nature of the services provided by Sting, specifically line 207-000-801.000 professional fees. It also has been observed that Oscoda Township pays an annual fee of $2,865.80 to Sting, and this expenditure should not be incorporated as a shared cost when calculating the annual chargeback for the contracted police department services.
Right.
Comments? Ms. McGuire, are you still on that Sting board?
No, they just voted actually to change the voting board members last
Okay.
year in January.
Oh, okay. Did you want to talk a little bit about that?
I wasn't.
Sting?
Oh,
I know we used to have an officer, one of our officers on that.
yep, Chief and I used to actually go and both be voting members, but they've changed that, so I haven't been.
Okay, all right. Well, this is something that we've like I said, we used to have an officer that was dedicated to sting, and started becoming short-handed on police officers, and it was becoming expensive. So we opted to pay this fee each year to Sting for their support. So,
Who are the voting members?
Myself and the chief.
Now? You're still the
No, we
voting
were.
members?
We're not.
Yeah,
We're
who's
not
the
any
voting
further.
members now?
Voting board members are County of Crawford, County of Oscoda, County of Roscommon, and the Michigan State Police, according to the board of directors.
So we don't even have a vote?
It doesn't look like it anymore. I didn't get a chance to talk to Chief this morning before he left to talk to him about why we are no longer part of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
any other questions, comments?
Should we continue to pay for it if we don't have a voice there?
That's a good question.
I argued about it last year, and you guys said, well, we vote on it, and I said, all right, fine. We did it, and we paid them. But this year, if we don't even have a voice on their board, they're talking about $331,000 worth of street value drugs. Well, that's a matter of perception. 51 firearms. Oh, were any of those even out of our township?
Well, the report shows some different things here.
Yeah, it was Oscoda County.
Yeah, but it doesn't say specifically. I'd like to table it honestly till I can talk to the chief. That's just my opinion.
I'd move to postpone the vote on this payout until the next regularly scheduled board meeting,
Yes.
until Ms. McGuire can get some more information.
Support, Cummings?
We have a motion by Mr. Spencer, support by Mr. Cummings to postpone this item till the next meeting. Roll call, please.
Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Mr. Taser?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes, motion passed. Next is the row invoices.
Do you want me to run through them, or do you guys want to run down the list like you usually do?
We can run
Each
down
one
the
pick
list,
a-
I guess, and
pick
get
an
through
approval.
these.
They're all right here.
Yeah, we just
One
repeat
for
what you
everybody.
say.
Yeah. Start with row invoice 107-853. This is for work on Phase 3 of the IET bike path.
All right, I move that we pay invoice number 107-853 Iosco Exploration Trail, in the amount of $26,985 even, from line 101-751-880.572.
Support, Spencer.
We have a motion by Mr. Cummings, support by Mr. Spencer. Roll call, please.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Taser?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Palmer?
Yes, motion passed. Invoice 107-959. This is for work on Phase 5 water main improvements. Do I have a motion? I'll make a motion to approve paying row invoice number 107-959 in the amount of $5,865 for work on Phase 5 water main improvements to be paid from C2R2 funding once funds are received in our account.
Support.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Taser?
Yes.
What did I miss? Sorry, I changed this for adding in the new board member, and Palmer is sprinkled in my list.
Yourself.
Who hasn't voted yet?
Sprinkle me at the end.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
I do have one question, even now the vote's over. If I can ask Tammy or Rick, for that one, it says water system improvements for 2022. So the work was done in 2022?
No, the contract was let in 2022. No, it's,
Okay.
yeah.
So the one that's coming up that says C2R2 for 2023, Is that a totally different project?
That's the coal bath area.
But it still falls under the
Still under the
C2R2?
C2, the whole C2R2 grant encompasses all those phases.
Okay,
C2R2 will encompass all expenses that were approved through 2025.
okay, good to know because I was labeling our CWSRFs by the year that we get them. So, yeah, so that was like, oh, okay, all right.
C2R2 is a little different.
It's through 25, okay, thank you.
Next is invoice 107,966.
Move to approve payment for invoice 107,966 and the amount of $1,162.50 to be paid out of the CWSRF account after funds are received and made available.
I will support that. Palmer?
Those funds are available now, Tammy, so you guys can ship me that invoice.
Oh, good, okay.
Is that the
Thank you.
CWRF or the C2R?
Yes.
CWRF. Yes.
Roll call, please.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes,
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Teaser?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes, motion passed. Invoice 107,971. This is for as-needed services.
I'll make a motion that we approve invoice 107,971 for as-needed services, $4,347.50 from Fund 101-299-821-000.
Support.
We have a motion by Ms. McGuire, support by Mr. Sutton. Roll call, please.
Mr. Teaser?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes,
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes, motion passed. Invoice 108,062. This is for Lakewood Shores mapping to be paid from 236-266-801.
I'd make a motion to pay invoice 108,062 for Lakewood Shores mapping in the amount of $9,161 to be paid from 236-266-801-000.
I'll support that. Palmer. Roll call, please.
Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Teaser?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
yes,
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Palmer?
Yes, motion passed. Next invoice 107,949. This is for Old Orchard Park mapping.
Move to approve invoice number 107,949 in the amount of $1,791 to be paid from account number 218-000-984.000.
support.
We have a motion by Mr. Spencer, support by Ms. McGuire. Roll call, please.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes,
Mr. Teaser?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes, motion passed. Invoice 108,105. This is for water system improvements.
Move to approve invoice number 108,105 in the amount of $12,600 even to be paid from C2R2 after the grant money is received and the funds become available.
Support.
We have a motion by Mr. Spencer, support by Mr. Sutton. Roll call, please.
Mr. Teaser?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Ms. McGuire?
yes,
Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes, motion passed. Next is the Oscoda Wordsmith Airport Authority building lease.
All right. Your packet contains a proposed lease application for a training facility for our fire department from Oscoda Wordsmith Airport Authority in the amount of $1 annually for 5 years with a possible renewal after that. This building will provide a great opportunity for our fire department members to train in realistic scenarios and situations. I would ask that the board consider allowing the superintendent with attorney review to execute the lease contract with OWAA for the Oscoda Township Fire Department in the amount of $1 per year.
Questions, comments?
Could we get it for 50 cents a year?
Oh, please. Seriously.
Have we checked with Paul Olson for insurance to see if it's a big liability or insurance increase or anything like that?
No, that's why I added the attorney review, because I got this very last minute. So Lisa this is the only contract in here that she has not had a chance to review. So I would like to get tentative approval, so if everything lines up correctly, we can just execute it. I know the fire department's very excited about having this. So what I could do is, when we check with Mr. Olson, I can send all that information out to the board to see what the increase is gonna look like for insurance.
And I can tell you, I attended the fire meeting last Thursday, and they are very excited about having this for doing training. And at the airport meeting, talked about this, and it's a building, they call it the refrigerator building, and it hasn't been used in over 10 years out there on the base, so the fire department is excited to get out there and paint the outside, put their decal on the building, and do some training. They can set up the inside for training for fire, so they're excited about this.
Cool.
Any other comments, discussion? Do I have a motion?
I would make a motion to tentatively approve the lease based on Mr., what'd you say his name was?
Paul Olson?
Mr. Olson's review and attorney review. Ms. Klein?
Insurance costs and attorney review.
Insurance costs and attorney review.
Support Cummings.
We have a motion by Mr. Spencer, support by Mr. Cummings. Roll call, please.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Mr. Teaser?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes, motion passed. Next is the fan purchase.
Right. Your packet contains a memo from Chief McGregor for a ventilation fan replacement. The current fan is over 10-plus years old and has been malfunctioning. As a crucial part of almost every fire situation, this unit needs replacing. A recommendation has been made by the fire chief to purchase the unit from Municipal Emergency Services in the amount of $4,450. I would ask that the board consider purchasing the ventilation fan from Municipal Emergency Services in the amount of $4,450 to be paid from Fund 206-000-981.000.
Comments, questions?
It's just a curiosity, where is this fan used?
It is used in fires, from what I understand, to remove smoke.
They use it, you can use it both ways. You can use it to draw smoke out of a building or to blow towards the building.
Got it.
And when I was there Thursday, it took them over 10 minutes to get this thing started.
Oh, wow.
And then what the chief explained to me is they've been having problems when they get it started. In the middle of operation, it just quits. It's gas powered.
Ventilation fans are crucial in firefighting equipment to, especially if firemen have to enter into a building, and it's absolutely crucial that these fans work.
Yeah. So, do I have a motion?
Is that a motion, Bob?
Yeah, I move to approve the purchase of a 20-inch high-flow jet PPV ventilation fan from Municipal Emergency Services in the amount of $4,450 to be paid from Fund 206-000-981-000.
Support.
Have a motion by Mr. Taser, support by Ms. McGuire. Roll call, please.
Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Mr. Teaser?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes, motion passed. Next is the Mission Street slip lining.
All right. At the November 14, 2022 Township Board meeting, The board granted permission to have an RFP for the cured-in-place slip lining of Mission Drive storm sewer created. In your packet, you will find a completed RFP from Rowe Engineering for your review and approval. This document has been reviewed by the township's attorney as well. I would ask that the board consider approving the superintendent to go out for bids for the cured-in-place lining of Mission Drive storm sewer.
And can you explain, this is something I've been pushing for a long time. This is supposed to be done by the Air Force. They're using our storm sewer line. And can you explain what the agreement is with the Air Force on this?
Sure.
RFP?
Sure. So how this is supposed to happen is the township goes out for RFP to get a vendor to slip line the storm sewer. Once we receive those RFPs and the board approves a vendor, it then goes to the Air Force, which then they create the ESCA agreement. That will then go to our attorneys, and they'll do what they do, and then it'll come back to the board for approval and signature, and they will then, that's our agreement to have them pay for that slip line.
Any questions, comments, concerns? Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion that we have the superintendent to go out for bids for the cured-in live place lining for Mission Drive storm sewer.
Support.
We have a motion by Ms. McGuire, support by Mr. Taser. Roll call, please.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Taser?
Yes.
Yes, Mr. Palmer?
Yes, motion passed. Next is our ordinance 2006-233 amendments.
All right, so this ordinance is actually the first read. If you look through it, you'll see the strike-throughs. There's not a lot there, but in order to, this process that we're going to go through, first read tonight on the changes by the attorney. The second read will be at the May 8 meeting, and along with the second read, that's final approval, and a resolution will be presented for cost recovery fee schedule. This will allow us to begin officially charging for all our cost recovery related to fire, down power lines, and all the things that you had voted to have the fire department start doing. So this is our road to that exact issue. Like I said, there's not a lot of changes to this, but she did make some updates.
So with the first reading, do you just read the headings or something like that, or don't do
No,
that?
you just review. If you have questions, I can try to answer, but the changes, like I said, that she made are pretty minor, just changing like the Township of Oscoda to Charter Township in some places, or removing Charter and Oscoda and just saying the Township. So it was a light revision.
And I would tell the board that at the Thursday fire meeting, there was a lady there from Consumers Energy that did training on tending down power lines, which is one of the things that we'll be establishing a cost to recover when we go on down power lines, which we apparently haven't been doing in the past.
So also at the next meeting, along with the cost recovery fee schedule, I will be presenting the information that the policy subcommittee had collected at our meeting with the Township Fire Department. And those requests will be made at the May 8 meeting.
Do we need a motion on this, or is this just the first read?
No, this is just a first read.
Okay. Next is Resolution 2023-07.
All right, this resolution is basically going to be an agreement with Iosco County. Without this agreement, this all pertains to the Mishta Hope Grant that the county received. And if we fail to do this agreement, none of the Oscoda residents will be eligible for any of those funds if they apply. So this basically gives the county, permission to do the hand out these funds to Oscoda residents.
And what's the application process for them?
That I don't know. I have not attended any of the trainings for those.
Okay. So this will be coming up this year?
Yes. They were awarded, I believe, was $500,000.
I happen to sit on that commission in
Oh.
the county. The Iosco County Housing Commission is being reestablished at this point. We received the Hope Grant in excess of $500,000, which will be doing a distribution of those funds. There will be training coming from the granting process to the county, and once that is done, we'll be able to have the applications be able to apply. So what we need here is this resolution to allow us to apply for those, to the residents of Oscoda Township to be able to apply for funds through the Hope Grant.
Okay, very good, thank you. Thank you. So, any more comments, questions? Do I have a motion?
I move that we approve resolution number 2023-07.
Support, Sutton.
We have a motion by Mr. Taser, support by Mr. Sutton. Roll call, please.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Taser?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes, motion passed. Permit renewal.
Are you waiting for me?
Sure. Either one wants to chime in on this.
So I have 3 permit renewals. I don't know if you want to do them, if you want to approve them one by one. You want to do that? Okay. Case 901-2023 is for Cosmo Partners LLC. They submitted a renewal application, and it's for a commercial recreational retail marijuana facility at 4705 F41. So with all 3 of these permit renewals, it just requires board approval based on planning and zoning director recommendation. So they have turned in everything that is needed to renew the permit. They satisfy all conditions of the ordinance, and I am recommending approval. They have to get this every year. They renew with the township.
Questions, comments?
I have a comment.
Okay.
I'd like to make note that this year alone, Oscoda Township received $103,682.42 from our share of revenues generated by these facilities in our community. Plus the renewal fees that we'll be getting $1,000 each.
$5,000.
$5,000. So that's an added $15,000. So just having these facilities in our community has generated a significant amount of funding coming back into our community. I would like to eventually look into possibly designating those funds a specific purpose, if that's at all possible. So something that we can look into in the future to give back into the community on these funds. But I'm happy to see this kind of revenue coming back into our community.
Okay, any other questions, comments?
Along that note, we could always move that money out into that Michigan class and start its own fund and be earning the extra 4.85 right now.
Now that we're actually making some money on these investments, yeah, let's put it in there and get that 5%. Well, I will make a motion to move to approve the 3 permits renewals as presented.
Support, Sutton.
There's a Motion by Mr. Palmer, support by Mr. Sutton. Roll call, please.
Mr. Teaser?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes, motion passed. Let's see. Next up is a letter of support.
All right, so you have in the packet a draft letter of support for interim remedial action to remove PFAS from Miss Woosterbarth and the Now Group. I had to have a couple adjustments made, but those were made, and this is in the packet for your approval.
Well, I want to thank you very much for getting this reviewed by our attorney. I think that the NEED organization, or the Now, I should say, organization can put this to use. Has everyone had a chance to review it? Great. All right, then I would make a motion that we give the superintendent authorization to sign this letter in support of the IRAs, which are the remedial actions, sorry, for Oscoda.
Support, Spencer.
We have a motion by Mr. Cummings, support by Mr. Spencer. Roll call, please.
Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Teaser?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Palmer?
Yes, motion passed. Next is the auto dialer discussion revisited. I understand Mr. Spencer might have.
Yes, I attended a 911 board meeting last week, and I was informed that the emergency system is up and operational. They're still waiting on some training, and one of the reasons that it took so long was that it interfaces with the emergency broadcast system, and we had to have a special license, and we had to have a person that was trained in that license before we could acquire it. And that's what took the county a little bit longer to get that license, but they said it's up and running. There's still some things that they're working through as far as setting it up so that we can actually utilize it ourselves. But if we do have a water boil system or any other emergency that we need to put through the system, that we're welcome to have those requests sent over, and they will do their best to accommodate getting that information out to the affected citizens.
So we won't need any action on this item, it's just information?
No, I think we've pretty much kind of decided to, we can make a motion authorizing the superintendent's office to contact the county in regards to emergencies, and that way there's no question as to whether or not that office has the authority to contact the county to push those water boil emergencies or any other emergencies out to them if the board sees fit.
That would be the establishment of a protocol.
Yes.
Between us and the county.
Probably should be written then, wouldn't it?
Correct.
Yes.
Right.
Well, then, I guess I would move that superintendent's office be tasked with completing a new document outlining procedures and protocols for what constitutes an emergency and how to contact the county, and start that document so that we can review it and get it approved.
Support, Cummings.
We have a motion by Mr. Spencer, support by Mr. Cummings. Roll call, please.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Teaser?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes, motion passed.
Very good.
Next is vehicle building sale.
So your packet has a memo from Chief David regarding the sale of surplus property. They have a list of patrol vehicles and I believe one or two DPW vehicles in excess that they are not using, and Once in a while, we get to put them up on my bid and see if we can get some funds back. There's also a building, which I tried to get a picture of before we put this together. And I can email it out to everybody. It's the former building that used to be at the BMX track. It was like the announcer's booth. It is sitting at DRMO right now on the ground. And Chief had suggested that we make it known that the building is 11 feet 6 inches tall and probably will need a permit to move. But people buy things like that, and it's worth putting it out there rather than just having them burn it.
Sure.
So,
Okay. And we do this periodically with police vehicles and DPW vehicles that we're no longer using. We put them out to bids to try and recoup some funds from those.
correct.
Any questions, comments?
Also in his letter or note to us, it talks about returning to the police department to the equipment line. We can't put a revenue to the expense, but we can put the revenue into the police fund
Right.
if the board so chooses.
So that would be for the police vehicles,
Right.
the DPW.
Sale of fixed assets, I believe, yeah.
Yeah,
Under 207.
yeah.
The DPW vehicles, we sell those would go into the general fund?
Right.
Okay. All right. Do I have a motion?
Where would the money for the building go? If that's sold? Would that just go into the general fund as well?
I would think so.
Jamie's saying yes.
The jail, okay. I didn't hear about the building.
Is there a motion?
I guess I would move to approve the sale of excess property with the money that is made from those sales to be put into the proper account.
General fund.
Well, the police vehicles aren't going into the general fund, they're going to go into the police fund.
Good point.
207.
So with the, I guess with
That's all in
the,
the general fund.
is that all? Can I just say general fund and that's good enough?
You're good.
Yeah?
Yep, we can figure it out.
The sale or the proceeds going into the general fund.
Support.
We have a motion from Mr. Spencer, support by Mr. Taser. Roll call, please.
Mr. Taser?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mrs. McGuire?
Yes,
Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes, motion passed. Next is the Munitrix software system.
All right, so in your packet, you have first a letter that went out announcing their 4% increase on the Munitrix software. This software helps every year for our CVTRS. That's our revenue sharing portion. Without the software, it's a very difficult process.
Yep.
So their increase is approximately just over $100. It went from $2,844 to $2,958. And we pay annually.
What kind of discount do we get for paying it multi-year?
So if we were to go with a multi-year contract, which is they have a 3-year contract, we would get it for the $2,844 a year, totaling $8,532 for 3 years.
And I'd point out that we started this subscription in 2016 when I first joined the board. I remember when Mr. Stalker made the presentation for it. And we've been renewing the subscription every year.
So it would make sense to...
I don't think we're going to be stopping it. That's the point.
Do it 3 years, and didn't you tell me that if we do it for the 3 years, there won't be any increases?
Right, correct. And
Locks in.
if we do the multiple year contracts, from what the email I got from Mr. Gears at Munetrix, there would be no increases for 23 years in that price if we continue down the multi-contract trail.
Okay. Any other questions, comments? Motion?
I will move to approve payment to Munitrix LLC for the 3-year contract.
Support.
A motion by Mr. Spencer, support by Ms. McGuire. Roll call, please.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Mr. Taser?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes, motion passed. Next is the AYSO agreement.
So this is another annual agreement we usually have with AYSO Soccer. This did go to the attorney for review. She made quite a few updates, but nothing that's any different. It just modernized the contract, basically, because we hadn't done it in quite some time. So they are anxiously awaiting these next 2 contracts.
So this is the updated contract from the attorney.
Yes.
This, like you said, this is an agreement we do every year. We've done it
Yes.
for a long time.
Very long time.
Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve the operating agreement with the American Youth Soccer Organization.
Support?
A motion by Ms. McGuire, support by Mr. Sutton. Roll call, please.
Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Mr. Taser?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes, motion passed. Next is a similar agreement for the youth softball and baseball.
Same thing, I had this reviewed by the attorney. She made just a few changes and modernized, like the AYSO. And it's our annual agreement with softball and baseball. So,
I would move to approve the yearly contract with the Oscoda Youth Softball and Baseball.
Support Cummings.
We have a motion by Mr. Spencer, support by Mr. Cummings. Roll call, please.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Taser?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Spencer? Or Mr. Palmer?
Yes, motion passed. Next is a fertile field use request.
all right, you normally, yes, I was given permission to go ahead and approve events, but this event from Miss Bravada, the Touch Truck event, is actually asking for water use, fencing, and I believe some other items through DPW. So, and she is also asking for a waiver of fees in lieu of a sponsorship package through the event, which includes the Township logo on event t-shirts, flyers, and brochures, on the social media websites, and a mention of Oscoda Township as a major supporter of the event all through the event, so.
Questions, comments?
Oh, go ahead.
I was just looking at what's our noise ordinance cutoff in Oscoda?
11 or 11:30.
Is
I
it
think
that
it's
late?
11:30. Yes.
Well, it says that they're running until midnight, but they're not, but their designated quiet hours don't include our ordinance in the evening. So they need to, that probably needs to be put in there so that they don't run their sirens and make everybody angry at that.
I can add that with her, yes.
Sorry.
Ms. McGuire, did you have?
I did. Just curious why they would want to do it every night till midnight.
You know,
Just
I don't
curious.
think the kids are going to be up that late anyway, are
I
they?
think towards the end of the evening, it's more fundraiser, you know, adult.
Yeah, I think if you
I
read
would
there,
think
it
at
says
the
also
end.
including
Oh, okay, they
take
didn't have
downtime
anything
by
listed.
that
I didn't
time.
see it here anyway. Oh, wait, we may down here further. Give it a benefit. Anything else in the community downtown local business.
Food trucks.
Oh, okay. Okay, just curious.
I know in the past, we've been kind of smacked on the hand for giving away fertile field access. We're not allowed to donate money in that way. Is this trade out acceptable to the attorney?
I could double check with her.
It'd be nice to
We've
know
done
one
it
way or the
previously,
other.
that's why I'm bringing it.
Well, we also waived the fees previously until we were notified that we're not allowed to do that. And so it would probably behoove us to get some clarification on whether or not we can do trade out before we continue with it.
Can we do it based on contingent on
I would
attorney
make a motion
approval?
to approve this the fertile field usage with the updated quiet hours and approval from the township attorney on the trade out of the fees for advertising for Oscoda Township.
Support Cummings.
We have a motion by Mr. Spencer, support by Mr. Cummings. Roll call, please.
Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Taser?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Palmer?
Yes, motion passed. Let's see. Annual meeting of the board schedule.
All right, so the Economic Improvement Committee is making a recommendation to hold the annual meeting of the boards on May 9th at 2 p.m. This is something, after having a conversation with the MEDC recently, it's on our Trello board to keep up our RC certification. And it's something that we have to do annually. And I'm hoping that I can get a majority of everybody there. If not everybody, I realize it's the day after a board meeting, but we kind of need to get it done and over with.
And we have it here, right?
We can, as long as I get approval from them to hold it here.
Okay. Yeah, we had this last year, I believe, and
Yes.
includes Township Board, Planning Commission, ZBA, EIC. Yeah. May 9th? Do we need a motion on that?
It would be nice.
Okay.
May 9th, good.
Do I have a motion? I'll make a motion that we have a meeting of the boards May 9th at 2 o'clock.
Support?
That's, motion by Mr. Palmer, support by Mr. Sutton. Roll call, please.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Taser?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes, motion passed. Hope everyone can attend on the 9th. Next up is the suggestion from Chief David as the sergeant position. Questions, comments?
Will this affect his status as the CSO?
Yes.
So will they be looking to replace that position next?
Yes, they're already advertising for that.
Any other comments, questions? I'll make a motion to approve the promotion of Officer Danny Gallagher to Patrol Sergeant with an effective date of 4/15/23.
Support Cummings.
Motion by Mr. Palmer, support by Mr. Cummings. Roll call, please.
Mr. Taser?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes, motion passed. Another memo from Chief David, the change of status. This is to approve the Officer Ethan Brandt from probationary to seniority status. Questions, comments? Motion?
I would make a motion to approve Officer Brandt being transferred from probationary employment to seniority status effective 4/11/2023.
Support, Palmer. We have a motion by Mr. Sutton, support by Mr. Palmer. Roll call, please.
Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Teaser?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Palmer?
Yes, motion passed.
Mr. Palmer, just a question. In the packet, there is also a change in employment status for Mr. Gallagher, Officer Gallagher. And I was wondering, do we need to vote on that?
We just did.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
He
We
was
just
the
did Ethan
sergeant,
Brandt.
first one.
That's the sergeant.
in a row.
Oh, I swear it was, we just did the one for
One was for supervisor.
For
position.
sergeant.
Sergeant, yeah.
Yeah, so there's 3 different people, but we just did 2. That's what I'm saying, is
Where's the third?
exactly. Danny Gallagher's Ethan Brandt, and the third is the, him, just blanked on his name. The sergeant promotion.
Yeah, that's Gallagher.
That's Officer
Oh, I'm so
Gallagher.
sorry, I just blanked. Oh my gosh, I'm gonna go to bed. Never mind.
A little bit jet lag.
That's all right. I did it 5 minutes ago.
Seriously, jet lag. Yeah, I'm so sorry.
Need to get some sleep. Mr. Cummings.
Yeah.
Next up is a light pole bracket request. This is from Mr. Sutton. You want to speak on this?
Yes, Ed, I've been working with Bill Hamlin with their light poles, and he's done a great job putting them together, but we now have uniform light poles, and we'd like to purchase enough of the banner mounts for all of the poles so that we can mount 2 banners for every pole. And this way we would have uniform mounts for all of our poles right now. He's made adjustments with some over time as we keep adding them in. But this would give us the ability to have those on all of our light poles throughout the downtown for an amount not to exceed $28,000.
Are there enough of these brackets to include the missing light pole that's been missing for
Yes.
like 2 years in front of McDonald's?
Yes.
Okay.
And we're working on that.
I bet you are.
COVID, yeah.
Yeah.
We're waiting for that light pole like we're waiting for meters and hydrants.
Well, I would say our banners have become a popular item.
Yes.
So the graduation banners, the veteran banners, the holiday banners, everything we put up. So I think that would be a,
Yeah.
and your suggestion, we use some of our ARPA funds for that?
Yes, for the community.
Would you like to make a motion on that?
Yes, I would make a motion to approve an amount up to $28,000 for the purchase of double-sided banner brackets to be paid for from our ARPA funds.
Support, Cummings.
We have a motion by Mr. Sutton, support by Mr. Cummings. Roll call, please.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Teaser?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes, motion passed.
Question for Tammy. Do we have, when is the deadline that we have to use our ARPA funds by? Do you know?
2025.
Thank you.
Final item is a Sabo resident agenda item request. There's, I think, a note in the packet for a request to be placed on the next board meeting. Questions, discussion?
Yeah, I guess I don't understand. I guess if I'm going to be putting something on an agenda, I would want to know exactly what the chain of command issue is. What is the exact topic? Not the broad generalities of command issues, questions, concerns, and clarifications. I'd want to know exactly what those points are so we could be prepared for the discussion.
I would suggest these are items that were in the litigation against the township, which has been settled. It was settled by our insurance company.
And you were there. You were a representative, if I remember correctly.
Mr. Spencer and I were in attendance for that negotiation.
Yeah.
We have been advised by counsel that we should not discuss any ongoing litigation or litigation that's been settled. In the past, board members have made statements on litigation that's been settled, and we have ended up, Township, in new litigation. So my recommendation is that we decline this request since it involves litigation that has been settled.
Yeah, I think that makes sense to me. This is not a matter of a township business question that would be appropriate for an open meeting like this. This isn't a negotiations table, this isn't a tribunal up here. I don't think this is appropriate. I would have to agree with what you said, Mr. Palmer.
So I will make a motion to decline the request concerning the chain of command for part of the legal settlement.
If he wrote a note to say a specific topic, let's say Footsite Park or whatever, then we could vote to let him speak then, or we just are not going to let him speak?
Well, the purpose of these board meetings is to conduct township business.
Correct.
So if there's an item that someone in the public, now this is someone from Oscoda Township, not Oscoda Township, first of all, but if a resident has something that has to do with business that this board conducts, then they can request to be put on the agenda, and then they need to put information that describes exactly what it is that they want the board to understand when we're conducting business, and then we would add that to the agenda, and then the board would discuss it.
Right.
And we would come to some resolution of whatever the item might be. This particular case, since it does involve litigation, which has been settled by our insurance company, and we've been advised by counsel that we should not discuss litigation, whether it's ongoing or has been settled, because that has got us in trouble in the past. That's why I'm making the motion to decline this request.
Support.
Motion by Mr. Palmer, support by Mr. Taser. Roll call, please.
Mr. Teaser?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes, motion passed. That is all of our agenda items. Next up is public comment. You can comment on any item that you would like. Please state your name when you come up for the record so it can be recorded in our, yes, over here.
Bill, the clock's not on the screen, so if you want, it's just so you know it's not up there.
Oh.
So you can't see it, so I'll just turn this a little. I have it, yep.
Good evening, Brenda Godfrey. A year ago, actually, April 25th, Mr. Cummings brought up the discussion on giving the supervisor Ann's office to Todd Dickerson. Mr. Spencer's words exactly were, I think he needs it more than you do. Looking back at it now, I don't think Todd used it as much as Ann would have. Mr. Spencer made the motion. Bill Palmer, you supported it. A year later, now you're moving into that position. Kind of curious on how you would explain that. If it wasn't good enough then, why is it good enough now? Also, the last meeting you guys discussed a financial advisor. This financial advisor is to teach the clerk and the treasurer their job. Kind of curious, Josh, since the last meeting to this meeting, how many of those days have been 8-hour days? I know you don't have to answer right now. You can answer after, though. or not. 8-hour days seems like something that, even though you work a salary, 8-hour job, 5 days a week, 40 hours a week. I don't think leaving early just because you make a salary is good. At the last meeting, Mr. Jolly also mentioned, why are we paying cops to be here overtime? We have 2 cops that are working. Now you're paying an extra 2 overtime. I know it's Miss Klein that wants them here. Those are her favorite officers. They're not here to do anything except bring in a paycheck. I would think you could have one of those officers at work pop in. They're probably at work watching the meeting anyway, so I would ask that you look into the overtime being paid out to those 2 officers at every meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Here?
Give me a chance to reset here.
Oh, okay. Over here?
Hello again. Melinda Morgan, Greenbush Township. I actually have a few things I want to get through. I'm going to read and talk fast because I'd like to go through all of them. First, Mr. Palmer, congrats on your new position. I hear you are using the supervisor's office again. I think that's great. I'm in no way saying you shouldn't use that space, and I mean no disrespect by this. But it does look particularly bad since you as a board publicly stripped and removed that office from Ann Richards and gave it to Mr. Dickerson, knowing he was rarely, if ever, in town hall. It looks bad because the very next morning after that meeting took place, at the direction of the superintendent, the supervisor sign that hung above that door was removed and the office was emptied out before 9 a.m. Ann wasn't even given the common courtesy of removing her own belongings. All I could do was tell her how sorry I was that that happened that way when she came in the afternoon and found all of her belongings already removed from that office. It was an embarrassment. There was no consideration for her belongings, and it was handled very childishly. There seems to be a real lack of ethical and moral standards by some on this board and/or the superintendent. You should be doing what's best for those who entrusted you guys to do right by them when they put you in these positions. Not what's best for your personal interests, or your friends and families, or even your boyfriend's interests, or because you don't like other people and you're playing that gotcha game. This is not a game. It's about those who put you here and trusted you to serve their best interests, period. It is not okay. It is not acceptable. Second, I watched the last couple of board meetings and was struck by the obvious and nasty attacks on the treasurer. Placing blame on her shoulders for the incompetence coming from Clerk Sutton, accusing her of not telling you soon enough about the problems with the payment of the bills, late fees, pulling money from the wrong GLs. When did she become responsible for the work of Clerk Sutton? Why aren't you publicly asking him to explain the mess he's created? Why aren't you publicly asking Superintendent Klein these same questions? Why didn't she keep the board apprised of the issues arising from the clerk's office as they occurred? Why would these known issues, and they were very known issues, not be brought to your attention directly, right away, and each time? It seems personal feelings have overruled common sense here. Standards should not be lowered for those that play the games well and don't ask questions. It's time to remove the blinders, folks. It's not okay, and it is not acceptable. Lastly, on January 16th, after I resigned as assistant to the superintendent due to the toxic work environment at Town Hall, I sent the entire board a letter along with an email expressing some serious concerns and asking for you, as the elected board members, to investigate these issues. It has now been more than 3 months since I made that request. Why is this taking so long? Is it so it gets forgotten? Maybe lost in the shuffle? Swept under the rug again? Is it being checked into at all? I've been very patient on this matter, but please know I have not forgotten. I am waiting for an update on where we are with this and how this is being handled. When can I expect an update on this? And once again, this is not okay, and this is not acceptable. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone? Yes, in the back.
My name's Kevin Kubik. I do live over in Oscoda. I'm an Oscoda resident, but I thought we were all a community at one time. But apparently now, if you live in Oscoda, you're not good enough to come speak to this board, right? I don't believe that it says Oscoda resident, Mr. Palmer. If you want to check into that and look into it, I think it says a member of the public, which I am a member of the public. Maybe you should just put an asterisk under there that anything that Kevin Kubik wants to bring to the attention of the board, we'll just deny him access to. Because that seems like it's more realistic. As far as Officer Gallagher, I'd like to personally congratulate him on his promotion into my sergeant spot. Out of all the candidates that applied, he undoubtedly was the best candidate in choice. The other question I have for you guys is, can I ask when the new firefighter hires will be placed on the agenda, and why it wasn't on tonight's agenda? I know they did interviews a couple weeks ago. I was waiting to see that on the agenda, but it wasn't on the agenda tonight. So I was just wondering if we could get a word of when that was going to be placed on the agenda. The other question I had for you is, if Chief David recommended me coming back to work for the police department, would you guys honor that recommendation, or would it not be honored? Mr. Taser, I think you have a lot that you're going to learn and find out. Back on December 12th, there was a board meeting. Nan Richards at that board meeting, at board comment, anybody can check into this, says, we've talked about the superintendent's evaluation. I dropped the ball in regards to getting that out to everybody, but with all due respect, some of you dropped the ball getting it back to me. Sorry, but we do have it all back now, and I will be giving all those evaluations to Ms. Klein. So the question is on December 12th of 2022, if Mrs. Richards were giving those evaluations to Ms. Klein, why then 6 weeks later, on January 23rd, did we hold a special closed session meeting regarding the periodic evaluation of the township superintendent? If she had those evaluations for 6 weeks, then she would know that she had good ratings. And the thing is that you guys were trying to cover up Linda Morgan's complaint against her. Because you had a closed meeting. The first session was the evaluation on Superintendent Klein. Now I created a problem for you guys, because I came to that closed session, and I came and sat in the front row, and the person that was sitting next to me was David Bryce, the township labor attorney. So I was the township labor attorney here for Ms. Klein's evaluation. And the truth is that he wasn't here for the evaluation. He was actually here because you guys created a third session, which was a motion to go into closed session to review the complaint against the township superintendent as in writing by the township attorney. Now that's not true, because I was here and I listened to what the motion actually was that was made to do it. And Mr. Bryce said that would probably be prudent. It wouldn't be anything more than going into closed session to discuss the legal advice that I provided in regards to the complaint against the superintendent. I'd also like to know why Mr. Bryce was not added as the other person, and why we're being dishonest about the people that are at the board and who's there. Regarding these newsletters for Oscoda, who's responsible for these? Who makes these? The newsletters that come out? Does anybody know who makes those? Is the superintendent responsible for those? Who does? I'm just wondering, because in the first one it says that Officer Robert Klink was hired to replace Tyler Leslie after he resigned, and then the other thing is Officer Ethan Brandt was hired to fill a vacancy by Officer Sobolewski. But in the other one, it says Officer Burkmeyer was hired to fill a current vacancy. That was my vacancy after I resigned, but we continue to hide the fact that you guys terminated me and made me disappear. Now, I also, Mr. Palmer, in the past, have requested in writing to be placed on the agenda. Back on, in February, I requested to be placed on the agenda to donate money to the fire department. Not to discuss any legal matters. Were you guys ever provided that email for that request? You guys didn't vote on that one. Now, Ms. Klein was responsible, according to making the agenda, but Ms. Klein sent me an email saying that I could not be added to the agenda, to the Township Board meeting agenda. While the Township does appreciate your donation to the fire department, the
Your time is
agenda
up.
is reserved for
Thank you.
Township business done
That's-
by
your
the
time is
board.
up.
I have a minute 28 left.
No, that, we're have, this one
doesn't
up
work.
here is
She's
been
Mr.
doing.
Boyer's timing.
Yes, I was
Gotcha.
timing you. I did 4 minutes.
It's
It's
interesting.
been adding minutes and taking away minutes on this screen.
Interesting.
I did. I told him to watch my phone instead.
Thank you.
Thank you. Senator, yes, here in front.
No, this one keeps jumping all over the place. Okay.
My name's Rita Engel. I'm from Oscoda. I have a question about, not who was appointed as the trustee, but the Michigan Open Meetings Act. And I've went in and looked, and I've researched as much as I possibly can. And in the meeting that you had to appoint Mr. Taser, Mr. Wustermeyer, I'm going to say it wrong. Anyways, you know what I'm talking about. He indicated that he had met with both candidates over the weekend. And that's at about 21 minutes in the tape, if you need to go watch it. But according to closed sessions in the Open Meeting Act, that's illegal. You cannot, I will read to you what I have, and if I'm wrong, I'll certainly, but it talks about the things that you cannot have a one-on-one meeting, and one of them, you have to have interviews. However, all interviews have to be in a public body for employment or appointment to a public office. They shall be held in an open meeting pursuant to this act. And that is number 5 under the closed session meetings. I would just like you to go back and take a look at it. If we're going to be transparent, I'm asking that you would go look at that, because when I originally was watching the meeting, it struck me very funny at the very beginning, like, why would he be having meetings with anybody, no matter who you got for the board? I think that falls under that as a not legal meeting. Okay, next subject. I live over on Interlake. Carol and Chuck Newman came to this board back in December. They were told to give their email address and their information to Tammy, and they had already emailed the board regarding the crisis de-escalation home that we have in our neighborhood, where they bring in short-term drug addicts, whatever. But we have children that live in the neighborhood, we have other things. It used to be the old Oscoda home. I'm not close to 4 minutes yet, Mr. Palmer, I promise.
All right.
I'm going as fast as I can. Our policemen that we have here, I think that some of the problems have been resolved over time. I've been in the building several times. They always seem to be in Ms. Klein's office. We could use them over on Norway. Those people knock on our doors in the middle of the night. There's no restriction that those people have to be checked every 15 minutes. They come out half naked. The police department will tell you, they just simply take them back. There's no buzzers on the doors, there's nothing. Might be a good place for us to spend some of our time. Quiet hours, by the way, are from 11 p.m., I just looked them up, till 7 in the morning, just for that event, so that you know that. And have we already hired this person who is not a CPA? It seemed like at the last meeting, they came in, we're gonna hire him, this is what we're gonna pay him, and that there was no discussion had about the whole thing. And I couldn't find whether or not he's actually been told to come to work. And I'm just curious why nobody else is given the opportunity. And am I close? How close am I?
30 seconds.
I think transparency, it was nice to see you all laughing, getting along. I think transparency is going to be very important with this board in order to gain the public's trust. I have watched Mr. Cubitt come in here time after time asked for an opportunity to talk to this board, and I'm not sure what's going on. I'm a new resident. I've only been here 2 years now. So all I can say is, looking from the outside in, I'm done.
Thank you. Anyone else in the center? Yes.
Nobody's gonna get the music and play the music, right? Didn't we
Right.
talk about that? The Price is Right? Nobody's gonna do it.
I'm surprised Tim or Jeremy haven't done that for you.
Oh, come
honestly.
on. All right, here, I'll put a timer on so I don't go over. Okay, Kelly Brown, Oscoda. Feels like forever since we've all been together. Hey, I just wanted to bring up a few things. I put together a little list, but primarily, you know, a lot of this transparency stuff, I've seen a lot of you at the other meetings, and you've seen me with my little tripod trying to figure out Facebook Live and all of that. I'm doing that for your benefit. I hope y'all realize. I mean, the transparency has been, the favorable comments have been tremendous. You know, coming to a meeting at 2 o'clock in the afternoon is not easy. People have kids. I asked a couple people to come tonight that have young kids so they could talk about from a legacy standpoint, and they're like, we can't. We got to feed our kids and do their homework. So I just think having the potential, you know, you have Zoom. I've talked to Mr. Trustee Tazer about it, and get this stuff out there and start broadcasting these meetings. You don't have to have interaction. People don't, you know, we're not looking to be mean to you. We're just looking to make sure we're doing the best for our township. So with that, anyways, about some of this stuff about transparency, you can't to piggyback on Ms. Morgan, you can't pick and choose what letters you're gonna put in for resignation. Just put them all in there. Stuff's gonna happen. We know, not everybody's gonna like each other. It's just gonna happen, so just do it. We've got some job postings too, which I know, you know, obviously Ms. Morgan left, so then superintendent had to find someone to fill that assistant role. And you're in a situation where you've got, you know, different positions being moved around, but you still gotta say what they're for. And you still probably should advertise them, I guess, in my opinion, if it's a public institution or a government body like we are. So I would just ask maybe you could be a little bit more transparent, and when you receive a resignation or a job move, talk about what the position is, what the requirements are, if you're gonna put it out to the public. I'm sure there's people in Oscoda, you guys have fabulous benefits, by the way. I mean, for the full-timers that work at Township, I'm sure they'd love an opportunity, and we'd like to see it. I also wanted to say, where are we at with this? I brought up before about inquiring about getting a fraud audit, and I haven't heard anything back. We still have, obviously, these outstanding questions of where the money's at. We have to address it. We have to address the training. This has been something that's been going on for a while, and, you know, I went and looked back at some articles that were written, and there was one in May of 2021 that I wanted to share with you guys because I think it's important. This was during the audit, and it says, another management note in the audit report mentioned the cash reconciliations. Clerk Josh Sutton took responsibility for the delays and explained that he's struggling to keep up with the comment account. And it goes on, and there's other comments and stuff, but I guess the point is, this has been going on since 2021. We're coming up on 2 years. Like, we've got to figure this out. You have to do something, like, you have to take this more serious as a board. We're missing a lot of money. Well, we don't even know how much we're missing, but so far the discussion has been over $60,000. We have to take this serious. You can't ignore this, or other people won't ignore it. So we have to take this. On a positive note, if you guys came out to the Family Fun Fair, it was a great event. It was amazing the amount of people in the community that came out. You know, I was really proud to be participating in it with the Downtown Beautification Committee. Also, there is a cleanup this week at the beach in Oscoda. So if you want to register or just show up with your gloves, please do. The other thing I wanted to mention is, can we add an old business section to your agendas going forward? We have a lot of things like FOIA follow-ups, changes to policies. It'd be real nice just to touch base on that stuff. You know what I mean? Thanks so much.
Thank you.
I do.
You timed that perfectly.
Yep.
Yes.
Wait, don't have them start yet. Hang on, okay, really?
That's what they all
Good
say.
evening, Jeff Linderman, Township of Oscoda. During tonight's meeting, I heard great news, actually, that you're promoting an officer to sergeant. Congratulations if you're here. No? Congratulations. It's an honor. Having been in law enforcement for 25 years, I retired as sergeant. And one thing I did not hear tonight's meeting is Chief David suggested a promotion and gave it to the board to be implemented. How was this officer selected? Was there a test? How do we get the best person in that position? I did not hear that tonight. So how was this choice made? Who made it? And why did he make it? And what can you back up for his decision? Experience, testing, knowledge? I heard none of that. So I would like an answer, or I can ask the chief if you want, but testing is a source for promotions along with longevity, knowledge. It's a tool to use. Not 100%, but it can help you choose the best man or woman for the job. I did not hear that tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else in the center here? Yes. Over on the right-hand side. Yes, sir.
Saving the worst for last.
Never.
Good evening, my name's Clayton Jolly, and I'm here to address an issue that's troubled me for some time. It troubled me when I was a witness to it, and it continues to trouble me. Twice I took an oath to defend this Constitution of this country. Once for the Navy, once for the Army. First Amendment of that Constitution is free speech. And I witnessed an egregious act of denying somebody free speech by this board. At the time, the supervisor, who's no longer here, is the one who I thought committed an atrocity. When a woman came up at her proper time to make a comment, that supervisor thought she knew what the woman was going to say and told her she couldn't make that statement. The woman argued back. She wanted to make the statement. It was her right to. One, by your rules that you have clarified for me. The other, by that First Amendment that our founding fathers thought was pretty important. That's why they put it up there with freedom of religion. Eventually, the police officers were called. They throttled the woman and took her away, and she was arrested, treated like a criminal. A woman who was doing what she thought was her right. What's even more egregious about that is there was not a single member of the Board of Trustees who stood up and said, that's wrong. I don't care if it's a supervisor or not. Citizens who know this Constitution, somebody should have stood up and said, that's wrong. You didn't. You all ought to feel pretty damn guilty about that. You were part of denying an American citizen and a citizen of this community her right to free speech, to voice her opinion in a public forum. You created an opportunity for it, then you denied it. I don't know what she wanted to say. I've heard rumors about it. It doesn't matter. She had a right to say it, and you didn't let her. My thought is at the very least now, a year later, at the very least, this board needs to get together, find a way to apologize to her, and if you can, get that crime on her record removed from her record. If you want to really be a good group of citizens and Americans, then by God, you ought to do that.
Thank you. Anyone else? That's it. Board comments. Mr. Cummings.
You're doing that again, huh?
Yeah.
All right. All right. I do have a number of items, actually. I wanted to find out, actually, let me go to address something that was mentioned by Ms. Brown. I was talking to our superintendent before the meeting on the topic of having an old business section in our meeting agenda packets, because I have noticed even myself that we tend to lose some of these action items, and or that even the board may not be aware of whether or not we're making progress on some of them. And so to that, I would like to see that we do something with that. It's not a thing we have to vote on here. It's just a matter of I think it's just a good thing that we should be doing. And with that, I wanted to ask if we would be, if we're now prepared, maybe in the next meeting that we're going to have for the board in May, to discuss the committee appointments that we've discussed a couple times before this. So I was wondering if, Bill, would you be prepared to have that on the next meeting agenda?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, great, thank you. As far as another open item was the FOIA process. I raised that at the March 27th meeting. I expressed then my concern that we've changed the FOIA process, but the board didn't know anything about it and we didn't approve it. So I'd like that to come to a discussion. The third item I have is regarding the EIC website contract. And as you've probably heard in the article that Manuela wrote for the Oscoda Press, the website for the EIC has been down because the provider basically closed the service. They never provided us an invoice, but they canceled the service and the website was taken off. So Ms. Klein worked with them and we have a new contract. And Ms. Klein, would you like to make a comment on that?
Which part?
Well, talk about the contract, just all that. We have one. When did we sign it?
I signed it actually this morning. I was waiting to hear back from Digital 55 because after the board approved it at the special meeting, as I was looking through it, there was a payment and cancellation section that raised a $3,500 cancellation fee, which I didn't want to make that mistake, so I reached back out to Digital 55. They revised that section to be the 60-day cancellation fee, or cancellation no fee. And they sent back today another contract for domain fee, which was for $7,000, to which I did not sign. I sent back the original contract, and I will be discussing with them tomorrow the fact that we do not want to pay for the domain.
Right.
So, and then it should be up and running as soon as that's clarified.
Right,
Yes.
exactly, yeah, thank you. Yeah, good. And then I wanted to also find out, it was on my list as well, someone asked about the status of the financial consultant. I was wondering if we have something to report on that.
No. Last I checked, Mr. Palmer had some discussion with him regarding employee versus contracted, so there is no status at this time.
Nothing final, okay, got it.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you guys very well tonight. Can you,
No,
just
what?
that last part maybe?
I don't have a status. The last I knew is Mr. Palmer had a discussion with the potential financial advisor And that's the last I know of it. He has not come in, nothing. And I did tell Josh that maybe he needed to start looking outside the box.
They needed to look what?
Outside of the person that we had appointed. From what I understand, he is no longer interested in the position. Am I wrong there, Bill?
Did we ever hear from the attorney about the not being licensed?
You talked to Lisa, if you want to comment on that?
It was in the email. Yeah. Right.
What's that?
No, go ahead, Bill, I'm sorry.
The
I'm sorry,
attorney
but
said
this is
we could
feedback
use him
that's
as an
coming back. It's
advisor. He's
driving
not
me crazy.
he's not doing CPA work, but he has declined the position. So we will have to look elsewhere for a financial advisor.
Okay, well, that was fruitful.
Could we have quiet, please, in the audience?
Yeah, thank you.
Is that all, Mr. Cummings?
And the last one I wanted to address was Mr. Lindemann's comment or question about the sergeant position. On page 512 in the board packet, the last sentence from Mark David, our police chief, states that this decision was based on the promotional interview process as stipulated in the bargaining unit contract. All the details of what does that entail are not something that goes into an announcement, but there's a lot that goes into it, and I'm aware of testing being one part of it. But as far as how that gets discussed up here, for us it's a formality. We don't choose who the sergeant will be. We don't dictate to the police department what rank people are given. So it's something where we're simply informed, and we have a police chief who is over that area, and we hear from him what is coming. There's certainly discussions with our superintendent, as she's his supervisor, but as far as these details like this is how it gets addressed to us, and we vote to approve it. And unless we're made aware of something that's unusually wrong or whatever, I don't know. I've never seen anything ever be denied, because the memos that come to us are usually pretty straightforward. And so, anyway, just saying to you that there is information. There's more to it than just somebody was simply appointed. But for exactly all that detail, you'd have to find out. I'm not sure how to find that out, if it's addressable through FOIA or not. But I wanted to let you know that it was in there. And I know with the 461-page packet, it's a bit of a needle in the haystack, so I wanted to give you an answer right away. Thank you, and then over to you, Jeremy, finally.
Mr. Spencer?
I just wanted to give more of an update on the 911 meeting that I went to the other day. Yes, we got the emergency notification system done, but there was also some other issues where the Oscoda Township Fire Department is lacking on the 800 megahertz radio installation. And they're not complaining about it per se, but they would like to standardize the communications across the county and whatnot. And to that end, they request that our fire department go out for a grant to help pay for them, and see if maybe we can't get the township to pay the difference so that we can outfit all of the firefighters with 800 megahertz radios for communications. I did talk to a couple of firefighters. They're not really thrilled. They don't love the radios, but they are the current standard, and they understand that we need to have a standard. So they're begrudgingly ready for it. So whenever we get around to it, then we should be good to go. Miss McGuire looks like she's in disbelief.
No, I just think that we talked about that when the policy committee met with them. I think they mentioned it then.
Did they?
Yeah.
Okay. I went to the board meeting. It was on the agenda, and one of the things that I like to bring things back to the board from some of the ancillary boards that we have, so that our board can make informed decisions. So we had that meeting, and I just wanted to make everyone aware of where we stand from 911 from Oscoda's perspective. So,
thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Jim.
Mr. Sutton?
I'd just like to remind everybody about the election on May 2nd. It's one item from the county.
Coming up quick.
Yes.
one item.
Mr. Taser?
First of all, I'd like to thank the board for appointing me to this position. I got my first packet of over 500 and some pages of documents in there. Took me 3 days of reading, and my mind is still a little foggy over that. I can assure the public that I will work to the best of my abilities to fulfill this position. And I'd also like to thank Jeff for applying for the position also. A position of this nature is very serious, and I was surprised that only 2 people applied. I would really hope that in the future, the community, people in the community will step forward, and it's very important to fill these boards. There are several positions that are opened on boards in the township and in the county. And we really need people's input onto these boards. People want to they want to talk about change, want to talk about this is your opportunity to step forward and become part of that. So I guess that's my comment.
Okay, thank you. Ms. McGuire?
I just want to apologize again for the time clock. My screen was adding seconds and taking 10 seconds away. I don't know what was up behind me, and this screen isn't working at all. So I did not see this one behind me. I don't know if it was functioning properly, but this one wasn't. So I popped in the time on my little phone here and was showing, so I apologize if it seemed like there was time not taken. I definitely tried to make sure that they got their 4 minutes.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
I think what I'd like to say is I did move into the supervisor's office since it wasn't being used. I have plans that when we hire a new EIC director, I will find other locations for my office hours, if that is in fact the office that we want to put the EIC director in. I've left all the EIC information in the desk and in that office. It's still in there. As I mentioned before, the person we were looking at to be a financial consultant has declined the offer, and so we will be looking for someone else to fill that position in the future. Otherwise, like I said in the beginning, I wanted to thank Ms. McGuire and her deputy for helping in the clerk's office to make our accounts payable a little more streamlined and proper. That's a big help, and I appreciate that. And we are trying to do our best here. None of us are perfect. We were elected to do a job, and the way government works is we put out there at the election what we stand for, what we plan on doing, what we would like to accomplish, and when we're elected, I take that as a directive that they approve. I went back and looked, I had 1,800 votes that voted for me, and I take that as a motion for me to continue to do what I said I was going to do, and that is to try and run Oscoda to the best of our ability, move it forward, try and have progress and get development in our community. And I'm working diligently to try and make that happen. It's difficult at times. It seems like there's an awful lot of negativity in the township. We try and be transparent as much as we can. We can't discuss what goes on in closed sessions. And there's only certain circumstances that we can go into closed sessions for, and we always do that on the guidance of our attorney. And one of the comments that was made had to do with the workplace investigation that is ongoing. We're waiting for a report. I spoke with the attorney that's working on that a week ago, and he is supposedly going to be wrapping that up and have a report on that to me soon. So with that, I don't think I have anything else to add.
Bill?
This meeting went better than I expected. We're not here till midnight, which I was afraid we might
Yeah.
be with as many things as we had to do. Yes.
Yeah, I just wanted to, back to the question of the investigation and the attorney. I think it would be fair to characterize that the report is being, the investigation is being done by somebody who is entirely outside the township and not being influenced by the board in any way.
Yes.
So that was, this is an entirely neutral investigation, and whatever report we get is going to be from his findings, I think it was.
Yes.
Right, okay.
So with that, I will move to adjourn.
Move.
Thank you.